Everybody's the sky is falling. Everybody.
So when you sign up for martial art, what is it that you sign up for? What is martial art? So the first thing that you learn when you enter the dojo is the rituals. So the ritual means like you can be at the most basic level. You enter the gym and then you sign up, and then this is where the door is, and some people bow to the dojo, bow to the mat. Then you go changing room, or it can be any of those basic things where you leave your shoes to the extent of where you position yourself to the mat. And there is a ritual. And the ritual is the first form of communication within our body. Because in a way, we create a circle or a cycle. And we talked about it before versus like a virtuous cycle versus a vicious cycle. A virtuous cycle is a cycle of good habits. But so we understand that through repetition, we learn. We understand that through repetition, we attend an event and we bring awareness. So rituals, that's the first very thing that we learn in martial art. Then immediately after, I won't say immediately, but it happens naturally, it's ranking or hierarchy. And ranking basically say, okay, you enter as a beginner, so you're probably gonna have a white belt. People are there longer, they have a purple belt, I'm just using jiu-jitsu. And then, people that are advanced, teacher, or whatever, they have a black belt, one stripe, and so on, okay? So there is hierarchy. And then with every belt comes a set of expectations. So meaning, if I'm a white belt, the expectation for a white belt is what? Well, that he's open-minded enough to learn, that he empties his cup, that he comes with an open spirit, because nobody likes to know it all. So if you show up and go, I got this, I know this, you're hard to coach, that's not really the mentality you want for a white belt. And that's the same in work field, right? Like if you go into, I don't know, like computer science or whatever your job is, when you're the new guy, the expectation is like, shut up. You shut up, you show up and train. SST, show up, shut up and train. Frank knows this from day one. SST, show up, shut up and train. So that's the mentality that goes with the white belt. Purple belt, using jiu-jitsu as an example, now you're a little bit further down the line. So ideally, you have a little bit more knowledge. It's not a bad idea to start to help. You start to show a little bit and you have better understanding. But also keep in mind that you have a long way to go. Because sometimes people get to purple and sometimes there is a belt system and sometimes there isn't, but they get to a certain stage and they go, oh, I got some sense of what this is, so I got it. That would be the mistake. So you don't want to be too quick to think you got it, right? Does that make sense? So that's for the purple belt guy. And obviously the black belt guy, ideally we expect him he's got a good solid foundation. So you able to lead the way. So how do we lead the way? By example. Because talk is always cheap. We can say whatever we want, right? We can make great ideas. By the end of the day, it's when you show up, you shut up and you train. When you show up and lead the way by example, that we can really follow you. So that's the mentality that goes with the black belt. Hierarchy is important in society too, because there is such a sense of hierarchy in society. A youngster doesn't receive the same attention, the same treatment as an elder or a full-on grown man or woman, right? If you're a young person, and you're sitting on the bus and an older person comes in, the natural thing to do will be to stand up and give you a seat. Does that make sense? Because the person's older. So it's the natural course of life. You should do that and it feels good if you do so. But some people are not aware of it, they don't. And that's too bad for them. But sometimes also the setup of society puts us in those positions. For example, I've seen this before. I'll just share a couple ideas with you, where I was on the flight and this young guy who, for a reason or another, has money and he can fly business class. And this old couple, they come and they barely can make their way into the seat and they fly back in at the end of the plane in coach. And that you can see that's the problem. That's a little bit of an issue in society because here now there's money talk. And then so I can, I'm 18, I'm 20 years old, I can buy myself a super large, comfortable seat where I'm an elder person and I have a hard time to walk and I have to sit like all cramped up in the back of the plane. So you see how sometimes society is tipsy-turvy, right? It's not aligned the right way. So ideally, the young person sits in the back, pays his due, and when he's older, he sits in the front. But so that's a couple words on hierarchy. Code of conduct is the third thing you learn. Code of conduct usually is the basics. You don't come late to class, keep good hygiene. See, in the martial arts setting, it's very straightforward. But also learn how to ask questions, learn how to behave properly. For example, in Silat, they have what they call the Adat and the Hormat. And that means the written and unwritten law of Silat. So, there are certain behaviors. For example, if the teacher stands and you pass in front of the teacher, you're not supposed to just cross him. You're supposed to lower yourself. That's a typical thing in Southeast Asia. When someone is higher ranked or elder than you, you go like this. I'm give you an example. In some society, you don't take the money with one hand. You always take it with two hands, right? Sometimes where they shake each other's hand, they position themselves like this to show respect. So another way to think about it, those are folk way. How do you behave on the mat? In Wing Chun, for example, it's a bad thing to cross your arms like this. It's a sign of disrespect, right? So those things you don't necessarily know them right away, but if you observe a little by little, you learn these folk ways, right? Does it make sense to you? So manners and code of conduct. Sometimes those manners, they're really much embedded with a lot of meaning though. For example, the Y for Thai boxing, usually you Y to appear like this, chest to chest. You see how you go peer to peer, parent, teacher, priest, and then God itself or the creator. Does that make sense? But if you don't know this, you might just bow an elder person go like this, right? And that might be a do or don't, depending on. Does that make sense? So that's the manners of the code of conduct, right? So right after that, health, elements of health, right? But health is so important for martial art because you are the instrument, and that's paying attention to the instrument. Usually, the foundation, the triangle, right? The foundation for health and for martial art is flexibility, strength, and stamina, or cardiovascular. So flexibility, number one, because a supple body, a body that can generate range of motion, is a healthy body. And then strength, not meaning that you have to be all bulked up, but enough strength to be comfortable in your body, to sustain pressure, to sustain your own body weight. It's important, right? And then usually one goes with the other. So for example, if you have strength, it means you can hold on one side and pull on the other side. Right? So you need strength to pull one to the other, right? Like if I make a yoga triangle warrior pose, I need my quad to be able to sustain, to be able to stretch the other side, right? And it goes the other way. Flexibility, because if you don't have the range of motion, it means you cannot visit the region. If you don't visit the region, then you don't develop the muscle. Does that make sense? So if I'm making this, if my leg can only go up that high, it means those up to here, those muscles never gets educated. That's why it's important to have range of motion, to have strength. And strength will bring you range of motion. And then stamina and cardio, that's the gas in the tank. Does that make sense? The gas in the tank is so important because it doesn't matter. 3,000 techniques, but you have no cardio, you die immediately under confrontation, right? All this is under the umbrella of health, right? So health, because you are the body, that's going to be, you the instrument that's going to play across the board, right? So you'll be the Thai boxer. What's the common denominator with Thai boxing, with boxe française, with Kali? You are the common denominator. So that's why Guru Dan always says, keep the body well oiled, keep the joint, lubricate the joint. Now, just one more thing about health, because it goes a little deeper. Health, at the end of the day, goes very much along with self-defense. Because when you say, okay, I'm doing self-defense, right? What are you defending? What is it that you're defending? Well, you're trying to protect your own body, so your physical integrity, right? Your life and the life of the people behind you that you love, right? So you try to, health is life at the end of the day. So what you protect is life, yourself, your life, the life of people that you love. And then in general, you start to have an appreciation for what life can be. So you're not too casual about it. And then it makes you a fierce warrior or a fierce fighter because you have something to fight for. Does that make sense? So if it's just you, okay, fine. But it's you, your family, life itself, then okay, it's worth to fight for. Does that make sense? And if you do have to, God forbid, take a life, you will do it in a very respectful way, right? I don't know if you remember the Bruce Lee movies, but what I always liked about it is like every time he had to take out a life, it was a very dramatic event. It was something that he never did lightly. Look at media nowadays. I kill you here, I kill you there, I stab you here, I stab you there. So, it's a dime a dozen. But no, there it was very deliberate, and it was for a really important reason, and it was with respect. Although he was the enemy, you did respect. So all this goes under the umbrella of health somehow, right? Then moving forward, right away after that, it's movement, fun, and flow, right? Movement, fun, and flow. And which is kind of hard to understand, but whenever you join the gym, especially in Southeast Asian martial art, I can say that for sure. that movement, having fun, having joy in participating in the activity is more important than correcting and stifling everything. So you don't go, oh, stop, this is wrong all the time. No, you let the kid, you let the person having fun, roll on the mat, have joy, because that will carry on. That's the intrinsic motivation that you're trying to cultivate, the enthusiasm. Does that make sense? So important, because other people say, oh, I have a passion for something, or I love something. Right away, I was in love with the subject matter. But most of the time, that's not really the case. You can have an incline, but you cannot say that you really love it. And this is the reason why, because you don't know what it is. How can you love something that you've never done before? So I love the idea of being a chef. I imagine myself like cooking superb dishes and serving clients. But the truth of the matter is, like, most likely I'll be peeling potatoes and cleaning the kitchen. That's the truth of the matter, right? Before I do those superb dishes. So I never thought about that. So until you're into the shoes, until you are in the experience, then you really understand what it is and you cultivate love for it, right? So in a sense, love is to love. It's something that's not given. It's something that you learn how to do, right? And it requires a bit of coaching, a bit of schooling too, right? So then after that, you learn techniques. So after that only, you came most likely for techniques, but only then you learn techniques, right? And then remember, this is not a list that goes from A to Z, but all these things intertwine, right? But so techniques, usually we say you learn specifics and universal techniques. So specific is what? For example, you feed a jab, I stop the jab, I parry the jab, I catch the jab, I pop the jab, I duck the jab. So those are specific. And then universal principle, universal technique is like, when I want to generate power, my body needs to torque. When the upper body moves, the lower body. So you have different principles that are universal principle across the board for the body, how it moves, that you learn explicitly, or sometimes not. Sometimes it's within the technique, in the body of knowledge, right? Problem solving is the next thing you learn. So problem solving meaning, like, if I give you, I show you a technique or a set of techniques, I might break it down to a certain point. But in my opinion, that's the way I was taught, at least by Guru Dan. You never really break down the whole material, because first of all, nobody's going to ever understand or compute the whole thing. But more importantly, there is always a part of unknown that's left for you to discover, right? And that ability to problem solve, it's almost more important than me breaking down the technique perfectly, because it's about teaching you how to fish and not feeding you a fish every day. Because if I feed you a fish every day, then you're dependent on me. But if I teach you how to fish, you're autonomous, right? And that's what we want. So problem solving almost is more important than giving you a large arsenal of techniques, right? You become the captain of the ship. So Guru always say, what's the sign of an educated man? It's not that he knows everything, but he knows how to research. Right? Then after problem solving, usually history. You learn elements of history. So it depends what martial art you study, but you might want to know what was the context, okay? So what period was the height of that martial art, where it's coming from. So usually history and geography, you almost cannot separate them, right? Because you have to look at a geographical location and then see what happened there, the currents that happened there, right? To really understand where you are, okay, today, to understand your present, you have to look into the past, and that will help you to make better decisions for the future, right? So that's why you look in the past and see, right? Also, then right after history, you learn culture. Culture, you guys know what culture is, right? So whatever in that geographical place for that particular group, whatever meaning we ascribe to different artifacts. So what's an artifact? It can be language, it can be clothing, it can be food, anything. But that brings meaning. And usually that meaning serves for that society to keep going forward, to live, to survive. Prosperity. Then after culture, usually you learn an element of philosophy, right? And philosophy, it's hard to learn martial art without the philosophy that goes with it. Guru always said Jikiri, it was really cool because the philosophy was embedded directly into the martial art. So philosophy means the love of wisdom. The most basic level, if you study Jun Fang Kung Fu or Jeet Kune Do, you should know some elements of Taoism because it's rooted in that. Then right after that, the values. So values, you might say, okay, my country has different values than your country. My upbringing brings different values than your upbringing. So that's cultural pluralism. It's totally fine. But we can all agree on certain common basic values that everybody can agree. Number one, life is sacred. Life is precious. Number two, family ties are good. In general, family ties is good to have. Friendships are good to have. Community, it's a good thing. Those are good things. It's undeniable. And then nowadays, the world is shrinking. We can even almost say a sense of global citizenship. Look, we all like connecting through Zoom and whatnot. So of course, those things, they come into play. And then probably the last thing that's offered to you, that you're learning, that's given to you, that's supposed to be triggered, it's self-discovery. That's what you get out of martial art. So those are 12 things that you're getting when you study martial art. And then, like I said, it's not one and then the other, but it goes like this, little by little. The platform. One time we meet and we do a stretching session, then we start to do a training, a specific technique. Then we stop for a second, look at the history, where that technique come from. And then we might look at the behavior. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a whole package, total package. That's what you call martial art. So most people, they come up for techniques, but the technique is supported by the top part and the bottom part. It's like a sandwich. So there's one part over here, one part over here. It's in between. You need to have the rituals. You need to have the ranking. You need to have the code of conduct. You need to have the element of health. You need to have the movement and the fun. And then you put the technique. And then problem solving. And then history, culture, philosophy, values, self-discovery. So it's a good chance. It's supported. If it's just techniques, it means that it's almost like I equipped you with a skill without giving you the blueprints on how to behave. I give you a sword super strong, and I don't tell you how to behave with that. That's not balance. That doesn't give you balance. So the last two things. So ideally, self-discovery is one thing, but also what do you try to promote in terms of character building qualities, right? So what kind of qualities we want in terms of, because the experience is supposed to be transformative, right? So inward towards yourself, number one, humility. Right? Everybody comes with sort of like a temperament or a demeanor, right? So some people are very forward, boom, right away. Some people are more withdrawn and shy. And some people somehow they happen to be in the middle. But regardless, we have to it should shape you, it should transform you. So ideally, humility number one, because it is a good trait. But number two, immediately after, confidence, right? Know that you can do. So ideally, you put them together and then you make it humble confidence. So you know that you can do, but you also should know that sometimes things don't go the way you want. And that's why you keep it humble confidence. And that should give you maturity. So those are inward, towards yourself qualities, right? First, humility, confidence, humble confidence leads to maturity. Maturity is important because maturity, in a way, it could also be called wisdom. That's what you get with the years, right? So the purpose, knowledge is power, but the purpose of knowledge should be wisdom. And you go case by case. Okay, I need to push a little more in this case. Well, I need to push a little less. Maybe this guy's just a young guy that's not mature. So it's okay, it's fine. Now you trespassing, you're crossing the line. I'll let you know that you're crossing the line. So that's what I'm talking about, maturity. Case by case, address it. And then that should give you balance in life, right? So that's within yourself. Now toward others. This one is very important because if you think about martial art, it is the study of the human conflict. What creates the conflict? What got us there? And also us within ourselves, why did we react that way or not? So understanding ourselves again. So what you need first, one versus others, is understanding. Understanding means like, I understand, I study you. I understand what is it that you guys do. So you need to look at other people and other culture, right? Number one. Then number two, patience. You need patience. Patience toward yourself and patience toward others because it takes time to change. It takes time to shape an idea. So if you're impatient, sometimes that might trigger a lot of tensions, right? Then you need also tolerance. Tolerance because now you're being patient, you're being understanding, but this guy somehow, his elbow is on my side of the, let's say on the plane, he's on my side of the thing, right? And you're like, but wait, that's my side and you're on my side, your elbow is on my side. And sometimes it's okay. People will cross you a little, you need a little bit of tolerance, right? So my garden is here, the wall is here, and then your tree branch goes on the side of it's my side. So if you make too much of a big deal out of it, sometimes it blows out of proportion. So you need tolerance. And then you need forgiveness. Forgiveness because people will cross you for sure. They will make mistakes because that's how we learn. We make mistakes, they make mistakes. and forgiveness is important. Otherwise, you carry all your life things that you don't need to carry toward others and toward yourself. Because people have hard time, sometimes even harder time to forgive themselves for mistake. If there is such a thing as a learning process, it really means that there is an element of growth. So when you're 6 years old, you're not the same at 10, and 10 you're 15. So we all make mistakes and learn through those mistakes, hopefully, right? See, every young person do dumb things. I did them all. All the dumb things in the book, I did them all. But it's okay. Hopefully you grow out of them, and that's what you call experience. So knowledge comes from experience, right? And the last thing, it's compassion. We need compassion. And compassion is an interesting feeling, right? But probably the one way to describe it better, it's a sense of togetherness, right? And that we all in the same boat trying to do our best. So that's the whole list now. But I think it's important because, martial art is a journey. So if you engage in something that's going to be longer than, let's say, a year or 4 years of college, you better know what you get yourself into, right? So it's like anytime you acquire something, you want to know what kind of deal you're getting. So that's what you're getting with martial art. So the whole structure and what you're trying to transform, those are the qualities, and what we're trying to produce, those are the elements. That's it. That's all I got for you today.
Dreams, they breaking through the roof. They be at the tree of Eden, trying to tear out all its roots. I be aiming for a king, playing around in the booth. Like this'll all work out. Tell my mama I'll be cool. She ain't